Hello everyone, I'm Heather. We are on our 8th day of Shorty September. We're 4 books in, and they've all been not duds per se, but not 5 stars. They've been like a 3.5, 4-ish stars. So we're looking to break the streak, okay? Today's book is The Meat Tree by Gwyneth Lewis. I'm not sure, to be honest, if this is gonna be the book to break the streak. We do have a backup book just in case. But this one is part of a series that I really love of modern retellings of Welsh myths, okay? So they take, like, each individual author is like given one particular sort of story in the Mabinogion, sort of like Welsh myth collection, and asked to remake it in some way. So it can be, you know, a bunch of different kinds of people now, you know, retold or etc. This one is the story of Blodeuwedd, but told several thousand years in the future and takes place in space. I'm feeling good about it, honestly. Like, I know I can feel your worry from here, honestly, but I feel like it's gonna be okay. Okay, and the prompt for this one for today is Taylor Swift shorts, or micro shorts. That's a prompt. That's a poetry book or a book with a breakup in it. And this book has the breakup of all breakups, a magical woman who was built specifically for her husband, who's not allowed to marry humans because of a curse. She falls in love with someone else and tries to have him killed. So, you know, hell of a breakup, hell of a day, okay? You'd need a drink after that.
That doesn't mean we have to get it here. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I forgot I had cat face until this very moment. And now I'm trying to remember if I did anything embarrassing with cat face, like when the Amazon guy came to the door. Was that before or after cat face? And when her little friend did makeup makeovers today in the house, and while I was not the first victim, I was the last. So at least there's that. Anyway, what I came on to say originally was that I've had almost no chance at all to read this book. I've read a page because my life is chaos, okay? I think you can see from my face how chaotic my life is, okay? But hopefully tomorrow I'll have a chance. It's like Monday, slow in work. I think I'll be able to sort of like plow through the whole thing tomorrow, hopefully. But what I did do is I got down to the dirty of reminding myself about the Blodeuwedd legend, right? So some of these sort of books, these like Mabinogi retelling books, don't really follow the story at all, really, but some of them, you can definitely tell that a basic understanding of the rough storyline of the original story, you know, helps you to sort of understand what's going on in the new one. So, in reminding myself about the Blodeuwedd legend, right, I've made you a little primer. I've made you a little video, like, okay, so that you too can have a basic understanding of the Blodeuwedd legend, so that when I talk about her being in space, you maybe will know what I'm on about, okay? But when I played this video, so I finished the video and I played it for my husband, he just basically, every time I said a word, he like corrected the pronunciation of it. So just keep that in mind, okay? Keep in mind that an American has made this and voiced it, and thus the pronunciations will not be good, okay?
Okay, a long time ago, Wales used to be made up of a bunch of little tiny kingdoms. Okay, and 2 of our kings are King Pryderi in Blodeuwedd and King Math in Gwyneth. And King Math has a weird pervy curse on him whereby he can only live in peacetime when he's not at war if he has his feet in the lap of a virgin. So King Math also has these two nephews, Gwydion, who's a storyteller and a wizard, and Eventhough, who's just a knob. Eventhough decides that he's got the hots for King Math's foot virgin. So Gwydion, being his brother, does him a solid, cooks up a war between King Pryderi and King Math, which pulls King Math away from his foot virgin so that Eventhough can jump her in a dark alley, which is disgusting. King Math, being a good guy, he knows he's got to do right by his foot virgin who's been defiled, so he marries her, but now he needs a new foot virgin. Gwydion's like, I can help you, mister, I've got a sister. So Arianrhod comes forward, and King Math is like, I'm going to do this test on you to make sure you're a virgin. And she's like, what do you want about? Of course I'm a virgin. He's like, okay, then that's fine. So he does this magic test, and she drops a baby. The test was unsuccessful, but as she's running out of the room, completely humiliated, she also drops some goo. And Gwydion's like, ooh, I'm gonna have that goo. And then that goo, he sort of spirits it away and it turns into another baby. Gwydion adopts the baby, but in order for the baby to grow into a man, he has to have three things. He's got to have a name, he's got to have a weapon, and he's got to have a wife. Obviously. But Arianrhod is so upset and humiliated about the whole thing of being proven not to be a virgin that she curses the baby to never have these three things. She says, you'll never have a name unless I give you one, and I won't. You'll never have a weapon unless I give you one, and I won't. And you'll never be able to marry a human girl. But Gwydion, being a clever wizard, he tricks Arianrhod into giving him both a name and a weapon, okay? And then that just leaves the wife. He can't marry a human woman, so Gwydion cooks up a magical woman made of flowers, and thus is born Blodeuwedd, which in Welsh means flower face. So, our boy Llew, or Lle, I'm pretty sure it can be either Lle or Llew, but my husband, he's not given up on this, and he tells me that Llew is wrong and Lle is right, but I'm going to go with Llew because I think that it can be either. He's happily married to Blodeuwedd, but he's a knight. He's got to do knight stuff, so he goes off to do war, and he leaves Blodeuwedd at home alone, where she gets up to Tribble. She meets a hunter named Gronw and they fall madly in love, but obviously she's already married and can't be with Gronw. So in order for them to be together, Gronw's gotta kill Llew. But it's way harder than it seems. He can't just be killed in the normal way. Something about being magical vagina goo, okay? He has to be killed in a very specific way. So Arianrhod has to trick him into telling her exactly how it's done. Something about it has to be done by a spear that was made over exactly a year's time while everyone was in mass on Sundays. And he has to be standing under a roof by a river with one foot in a bath and the other on a goat. For real. So Gronw sets this up exactly as he's supposed to, okay? And he throws the spear at him, but instead of Llew dying then, he just screams and has a meltdown and turns into an eagle and flies away. Gwydion then goes in search of his adopted son, and he finds him at the top of a very gross tree. Okay, this is where we get the name of the meat tree. It's like got little bits of flesh and worms and maggots and grossness in it. So because Gwydion is a Welshman, and this is what Welshmen do, he sang to his adopted son. And because the adopted son is a Welshman, and this is what Welshmen do, he responded very well to the singing, and he came down to Gwydion, and Gwydion was able to change him back into a man. But now, obviously, Llew's super pissed about the spear thing, right? So he goes to King Math and Gwydion, and he's like, can you guys please do something about my wife? So they hunt down Gronw and Blodeuwedd, okay? Llew kills Gronw with a spear, and Gwydion corners Blodeuwedd and turns her into an owl. Llew reclaims all of his lands and eventually becomes the new king of Gwyneth, and everyone lives happily ever after. Except for Blodeuwedd, obviously, because she's an owl and is probably still super pissed off at her life choices. Okay, so I actually read quite a bit of this last night. I'm about halfway through actually now, and I feel like I have a lot of thoughts. Okay, it's weird. It's really weird, and I don't know how I feel about it. Anyone who like is feeling, you know, smug about having known that this is gonna be super weird, like, please, I don't want to hear it, okay? Because if you never try anything new or weird, you never broaden your horizons. You just do the same safe, normal stuff all the time. And who wants that kind of life? Do you know what I mean? So it's 200 years in the future, okay? And people live on Mars and travel through space, okay? And you've got this guy who's like a wreck inspector. So every time there's like a space wreck or they find like space debris of like some sort of vessel for space travel, they approach it and they board it and they figure out what's happened, you know, like sort of like crimes and stuff like that. Like, was somebody killed or did they die, you know, of natural causes of, you know, misadventure in their wreck. So you've got this guy who's been doing it a really long time. He's like an old timer. And they're about to change the way in which this sort of thing is done. They're about to make it more technical and like send out like bots to these wrecks instead of people. And the people will instead be like at home base, like running the bots remotely. So they're about to sort of like take this guy offline. He's spent his whole life doing this job, traveling through space, finding these wrecks, boarding them, figuring out what's happened, you know, doing a report, blah, blah. And he's got an apprentice. So she is brand new to the job and she's only sort of like doing a week or so with him to sort of learn a bit about that. And she sort of feels like it's pointless because they're obviously about to change it to where you won't ever have to do this sort of thing. So why is she even learning? Do you know what I mean? And you get sort of like cute things between them. Like the guy like wants to teach her stuff. He feels like he has a lot of lived experience to offer, and she obviously wants to do really well on her apprenticeship. You know, she wants to do well in her exams, she wants to learn a lot, and she feels like she does have a lot to learn from him. But obviously there's like fiction between them in that he's like, oh, kids these days, no respect, you know, and she's like, oh, grumpy old man. Of course they're taking these people offline, they've spent too much time out here in the loneliness, it's made them weird. But anyway, other than that, the rest of everything is just weird. So they find this spaceship from ages ago, from like 200 years ago, roughly about now, or like just to the slightly more future than us. It's like an old Earth ship back when people used to live primarily on Earth. And they're like, how did it get all the way out here? Earth ships couldn't really get this far. How's it done this? It's obviously been floating out here for a really long time. And they go on and they can't find any people. And they realize that there were 3 people on it, and there's no forced entry or forced exit, like there's no dead bodies, like where did these people go? And they find this VR headset, you know, like virtual reality thing where you like put it on and then you like live in this like fake world. And apparently in their time it's really advanced, you know, you can like have the same feelings and the same like, you know, olfactory senses as this, you know, it's all plugged into this VR. But this is like an older version, okay? And they feel like they need to go through the game, through the VR game, in order to learn what's happened to the people on the ship. Because as you're playing this kind of VR, you put yourself into it. You pick a character and you put yourself into it, and the VR learns from you and like your thoughts and things like that. And it changes based on that. So they're like, oh, we'll use how they changed it to get into their minds and figure out what's happened to them. Okay, and the VR game is the story of Blodeuwedd, and they've never heard of it before. So they're like, they dive into it and they have to pick a character, and one of them picks Gwyneth, like the wizard guy. The other one picks the foot virgin. And she's like playing it, and she's like, why is this guy got his feet in my lap? Anyway, there's an element of the story that I didn't put into the primer, into the little video about the story of Blodeuwedd, because partially I sort of forgot about it, and also because like I think if I had remembered about it I probably would have left it out anyway, because it's super weird and I wasn't sure that it was gonna be relevant. But it is relevant, it's very relevant. And it's that after the foot virgin was attacked, okay, after Eventhough attacked her and Gwyneth, his brother, helped him attack her, King Matthew was super pissed. He was like, how dare you, and now this was my foot virgin, she's sacred. So he, as a punishment, turned them into animals and made them bang each other and produce offspring. But that element of the story does show up in like the VR version of the stories that they're playing, and they're playing these characters that then have to be forced to turn into animals and then forced to like do each other and make like animal babies. And the whole thing is told through dialogue, you know, so, and it's like thought dialogue, so they've got like advanced like messaging technology to where they don't type things or say things. They just think the narration at each other, you know? And there's nothing, like, there's no outside narrator. You know, everything you hear and see, it's like a play, basically, like, just in dialogue. So they have to say a lot of, like, really obvious things because, you know, if it was a show or if it had a narrator, like, you would know that stuff without them telling you that it was there. But, you know, because they're your only source of information, they have to be really obvious. Like, oh, I cannot believe that I am standing on a so-and-so. Like, even though the person who's there knows that they're standing on it because they can see them standing on it. Do you know what I mean? That sort of thing. So there's that. And I read, like, the afterword to, like, get into the author's mind and sort of see sort of what she was thinking about. And her explanation of, like, where she was going with this, like, her thoughts on it, are really interesting. She was sort of saying how she's always loved science fiction, and the merging of, like, fairy tales and legends and things like that, because she feels like they very easily slot together, you know? And I can see that. Like, I also like sci-fi, and I also like, you know, folk tales and legends and things like that, because I also feel like, you know, they go together and they have a lot in common. And she was really on about, like, as well, imagination, like the power of imagination and sort of like where imagination takes you, and sort of like people who have imagination versus people that don't, things like that. And I thought that was really interesting. So, like, I just feel like maybe the realization of her idea has turned out, like, really weird. Is she just gonna basically, like, for the rest of it, is it just gonna be basically her telling me in spurts and, like, confused spurts about the story again? You know, like, oh my god, and now we have to be animals, like... Like, and also, I do want to know what's happened to these people that were on the ship, you know? Like, I like a bit of a mystery. And also, yeah, that's interesting that their ship has been floating way beyond where it's supposed to be for ages, and they've just disappeared. But why, again, do we have to play the VR game in order to solve this mystery? Will it be explained later on? Like, it's a pretty quick read, actually, and I'm not hating it enough to, like, DNF it at this point, but I can't honestly see this one breaking my streak of 3-star reads. Okay, book haul. Are you ready? So, first ones I didn't get for me. I got them for the Spud, and she's gonna love them. So I got this one, and these two. Have you read these, like, cheese sweet home books, right? They're like graphic novel type things about a cat in Japan. My kid is in love with them. She loves these. I've been to like 4 libraries now, just like tracking down all the ones in the series. I think these are the last 2 she's not read yet, so that's good. Also, look at this cool thing. It's like mazes and stuff, but also search and find. Like, where's Waldo? But better than the ones I had in the 90s, which were crap. Okay, and then also from the library, I got these two. Doris at Aldi Books, she was saying about these recently. This one, she said it was brilliant. It's Tea Kingfisher, so why wouldn't it be, honestly? And then she also said about this one, which is a graphic novel. I don't really know that much about it, except for it's like a family from Vietnam, I think, and they uproot and move somewhere else. It says it's first gonna break my heart and then heal it, which I'm for. I obviously don't really know what it's about, but I trust Doris' judgment. I think if she told me to read anything, I would just read it. Also got this Tea Kingfisher, which is the second in a series that I started. The first one, can't remember the name of it, but it's like a retelling of the Fall of the House of Usher. And it's got a really cool, like, main character person. It's supposed to be like a alternate reality sort of universe place where it's sort of 19th century-ish, but different. And the main character is like this soldier person who's quite cool and funny. So, and Shan at my story time ages ago bought this one, or like last week or something, and I was like, how did you do that? I thought it wasn't out till the 10th. Turns out it was out, and it's been at Waterstones this whole time, and I'm excited about it. Like, Rachel Harrison, banging, amazing. I read most recently like her one about like a weird satanic cult. There's also been about a witch that I really liked, and I read Bad Dolls as well, like a sort of like short story collection of hers that was creepy and amazing. So this one I think is about vampires. Love. Okay, and then while I was at the bookstore, like, you know, just browsing, like not looking to get anything else because I'd already gotten what I came for, okay, I saw this. What? So these like Adam also like Boardman books, they're like true history and facts surrounding things that, you know, potentially aren't real, you know. So I read the one about ghosts, and I have the one about UFOs on my shelf that I'm going to read for this Shorty September. And then this one is about urban legends, and it sort of just basically gives you like history and little fact things sort of surrounding those things. So the ghost one wasn't like, oh, ghosts are real. It was just like, oh, people, you know, the first recorded sighting of a ghost was this, and in the 19th century, so-and-so held seances at her house, you know, like sort of like factual things about that subject. So, urban legends now. Like, honestly, I've accomplished so much, and it's not even lunchtime. Like, I'm basically on fire. Okay, the book now is sort of starting to read like a high school literature class about Mabinogion stories. Like, they're sort of, I don't know, discussing sort of the background ideas in the story, you know, as if it were like he's the teacher and she's the student, you know, or like they're sort of talking about like gender roles and sort of like, I don't know, stereotypical like behaviors of like male and female, and sort of what these myths are like intended to sort of mean or intended to sort of relay, or, you know, that kind of discussion that you'd be forced to have in school. Which I'm like obviously for, like I want, you know, someone to sort of talk me through, you know, their deeper meaning and everything, but in a way that's not like, you know, I don't know, like I'm in class, like I've got some sort of exam and I should like write something down. Do you know what I mean? It's not coming across like a story being told, it's coming across like Cliff's Notes. Right, I just cried again, and look what's happened. So I cried, so in my last vlog, I was watching that movie on Friday, and I cried because of that movie, and I've just cried again. And look what's happened. This is the last page left in the journal, and I have 2 cries to log. It's gonna have to be a 2-parter. It's gonna have to be a 2-parter with 2 full books.
Or you can try to fit it in here.
But what happens if I cry again? It's only September. Like, we're trying to sell our house, and it's been an emotional ride, bro. We're gonna have to bust out a new one. Okay, so we had my auntie Jean got me 4 of these. So this one, we could do this one at the top, okay, which matches this one, and it would be like, it'd be like a matching 2-parter. Or we could like mix it up, you know, like do a completely different one, and it'd be like that. Like, what do you think?
I like it.
Which one though? Should we mismatch, or should we keep it like all the same so that people know that they go together?
Okay, guys. Should we do bear and flowers? Or should we do a bunch of pink flowers? Or should we do matching? Tell us in the comments.
You watch too much YouTube. Okay, I have finished it, and it improved near the end. It sort of has like a bit of a weird turn, and the VR sort of, I don't know, sort of takes them over, you know, and they sort of become it, and they become the characters, and this like apprentice girl sort of like becomes Blodeuwedd, and like the language that's used then becomes less just sort of really sort of direct, you know, dialogue prose, and becomes like more poetic. And also sort of, it becomes like more sort of abstract and like folktale-like, you know, whereas it didn't start out that way. So I think with the ending that I really enjoyed, and like sort of the first 2/3 of it, which I thought were hilariously shit, I'm gonna give this one 3 stars, as I sort of knew that I would do, which we have not broken our streak. Okay, and I'm as sad about it as you are, to be honest. Will we break our 3-star streak with tomorrow's book, which is Even Though I Knew the End by C.L. Polk. So this one, I think, is this person or whatever who's like sold their souls to the devil for something. And they have an opportunity to get it back and to just live their life normally. But first they have to like track down this like serial killer who may or may not be a vampire as well. I don't know. But since getting this and saying about it, 2 people have said to me now that it is really good. So I'm pretty excited about it and I'm hoping that it breaks our streak. Okay, that's the end. If you've gotten this far, thank you for watching. Any comments, questions, concerns, please let me know. Still, what are you reading? I'm loving hearing what you're reading and adding it to my list. And we'll see you next time.